Hi everybody, it's Joey Remenyi from seekingbalance.com.au. I'm a vestibular audiologist and neuroplasticity therapist, and I'm the author of Rocksteady. So this is my book, which was released, gosh, when was it released? I've forgotten. Maybe 6 months ago, and we had to go into a republishing, reprinting, re-release phase because the first release was so successful. And so I'm getting excited for September. We've actually got an audiobook coming out, and the next round of publishing is going to be really beautiful quality. It's going to have a different feel to the book, and there's going to be an added index. So because we're getting excited about this new re-release of Rocksteady the book, I have approached my community members who read the first release of the book and said, I would love you to share with the world how the book's impacted your life, because it's a really important conversation. I'm an avid reader, and I do think books can change us and can touch us. And I suppose that's why I enjoyed writing this book so much. I felt very called to offer people a resource that they could touch and hold and walk around with them and revisit. And it's different to logging onto a computer and listening to digital resources, which are also excellent, but this is tangible. So today I want to introduce you to Dana from Canada, and she has very generously offered her time to chat about the Rocksteady book and to give it her review. And I'm thrilled to meet you, and I'm thrilled to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would love you to share with the listeners just a little bit about how you came across the book. So what was your journey to discover Rocksteady?
Yeah, I was in a pretty bad car accident and things kind of went downhill from there. And I suffered with concussion and things that I didn't know about at the time. And 9 months ago, I woke up with terrible spinning. The room was spinning. I was spinning, vomiting, kind of came from nowhere. Went to the hospital. They said, "Oh, you have crystals in your ears." They did all these maneuvers, and they said, "Oh, you're going to be fine." And I wasn't. So, like probably many of you, I went from doctor to doctor to doctor because I didn't know what was wrong. And my background is I'm a registered nurse and I'm also a high school teacher. So I was able to kind of jump the queues a little bit because of connections and stuff. So I probably saw a lot of doctors in a short period of time, considering it's Canada and things are pretty slow here with socialized medicine. So I was devastated because I was so sick and I live alone, and it was really hard. So I went to the internet, which as a nurse, I tell everybody, don't do that. It's the worst thing that you can do, which a lot of times it is. But I came across a PPPD group and I was reading it, and it was devastating because it was so filled with symptoms and it was so sad. And I've been sick for 17 years, people were saying, and there was nothing to do, and I've tried this and that and meds, and everybody's life just seems so horrible and debilitating. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this my destiny? Like I was so upset that no one could do anything. And the doctors and everybody kept saying, yeah, we're not sure, you're going to have to figure it out. And I was finally diagnosed with triple PD by two different ENT people because I kept thinking, oh, I want a different diagnosis than this. And so then I went on Facebook and I found a PPPD group. And as I was reading it, people were like, has anything helped you? And people have said different things, visual therapy, vestibular therapy. And somebody said, you have to read this book called Rocksteady. And I was like, okay. So I Googled Rocksteady and I found the book and I thought, well, I gotta try this. So I ordered it that day, and it came in the mail about 4 days later. And I started reading it, and I was like, geez, I think this girl has something. Because as a nurse, you learn about neuroplasticity, same thing as a teacher, how all the neurons work, and that stuff. And that all makes sense. And then something bad happens where you really then have to think about things. And knowing a little bit about the human body, I was like, well, maybe this is the way. So I read through the book and um, did my little worksheets, made out little worksheets, and was working along with it. And I haven't been able to work, so people would call and ask me how I was doing. I'm like, I'm doing my homework, and they're like, "What do you mean homework?" I'm like, well, my book. I'm doing this Rocksteady book and following through and stuff. And it was life changing. Like I I get kind of teary because I was in a bad place. And nobody gives you hope when you have this diagnosis. And Joey, reading your book, and you're so positive, and you say such nice things, and it makes you rethink. And I am going to treat myself well, and I am going to do all this stuff that she says. And the fact that Joey, you've gone through this stuff too, which I would never wish that on anybody, but it really makes you that much more believable. Because if you've never heard of neuroplasticity, and it's a really big word, and it's hard and it's confusing, at least people can say, well, she went through it and she says she's really good now. So that gives us, the readers, and people who are going through this, hope. And if nothing else, like, that's so much more than I got from 15 doctors, I think, that I've seen, was hope. So that is just so it's it's game changer. Because up until then I was like, oh my gosh, my life is going to suck from now on. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm never going to get better. Everybody says I'm not going to get better on the Facebook pages. So reading that, and there's so much negativity. And then I found your Facebook page, and I was reading that, and I'm like, oh, this is really nice. We're working together, and praying for each other, even though you're not, you don't have to be religious, but you say that if we all kind of deal with this together, we can get through it. And the book is awesome. The book is awesome. And I've listened to a lot of your podcasts and stuff, and people have said the same thing I'm saying. And you should charge more for your programs, and because they're so, they're so helpful. And absolutely. But the fact that they're not crazy expensive also makes, I think, us feel that you really do care, and that this is not just like a money grab for you. And you have so many free, like, resources out there, and all your podcasts and your YouTube things, they're all free. And it's it really, I think, makes us feel that you personally care about me, which is weird because I don't know you. But that makes a really big difference. And I think, and I don't want to speak for other people, but I think that's your little thing that makes you really so special, Joey. You're awesome.
Thank you so much. I want to speak a little bit to the Facebook groups. And first of all, the Rocksteady book comes with a free online workbook, so you can read the book, do the at-home exercises, which are at the end of each chapter, and then there's more digital resources available for free. The link's in the book, the URL link. And the Facebook group is also free. It's open to the public. And the reason for that is I think the conversations we have, which are focused entirely on how people are healing, not if they heal, not why won't I heal, not my symptoms this, my symptoms that. It's a study group. It's highly focused on how am I implementing neuroplasticity, and did it work for me? It's the trial and error exploration. So some posts are highly inspiring and people nail it and they're having a great time with it. Another time people are posting saying I'm having challenges because what I'm trying is not working, but it's a great post anyway because it's talking about their journey of moving through challenge, moving through struggle, and how they're supporting themselves, which is a huge part of that emotional spiritual journey. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you're in Facebook groups that are perhaps dragging you down and you're feeling hopeless and there's no support for you in those groups, stay there for as long as you need to connect to your pain and to connect to your struggle, which is an important part of healing. And if and when you feel ready, join our Facebook group, which is entirely focused on how to heal. And you will see person after person over the globe sharing how they're navigating this Rocksteady neuroplasticity process. Um, and yeah, I agree. You wouldn't wish any of these symptoms or these struggles upon anybody. However, they've profoundly changed my life. I'm definitely the person I am now because I've gone through it. I'm much more closely connected to myself, to my heart, to my authenticity, because they forced me, they flawed me. I literally went through suicidal thoughts and desires because I think it was actually part of me had to die. Part of my egos had to die in order for this new, more gentle, more willing, more aware, more open part of me to rebirth. So it was a very difficult time for me. And now I almost feel like I can't remember having symptoms. It's almost like it's so far in my past that I guess there's a distance growing between that person I was, who was hopeless, helpless, isolated, struggling. And then the next stage was I was healing, getting better, and passionate to help people heal, and going, oh my God, the messages out there are inadequate. As health professionals, we are letting these people down. We have to change our methodologies for educating and bringing neuroplasticity resources to the table because they work. So then I became like the advocate, passionate about helping. And I think now I'm in a different phase where obviously I'm still passionate. I want more and more people to have access to these resources. But yeah, I can't almost remember what it felt like to have triple PD or migraine. So when I read my book, it's reminding me of what it was like. So
Yeah.
I really do want people to know that this stuff works and it really changes us. And you can have hope, and it's essential to have hope, because if we don't have hope, we don't get started. And if we don't get started with implementing these trial and error changes in our home practice, in our home exercises, in our exploration, if we truly remain stuck emotionally and spiritually, well, there's no neurological change either. So symptoms are likely to remain unchanged for as long as we're stuck.
Yeah.
So I think having hope, connecting to the pain, and then wanting to change out of that, is a really important part of the path. And I hope that reading my book helps many people navigate their choices and understand their options way beyond what is possible for a doctor to explain in a 15 or 30-minute consult. Reading a book is very different to short consults with health professionals. And I think having access to good quality educational resources was lacking. And that's where I'm hoping this book will really have global impact, because we're seeing your story, my story, we're seeing it all through Europe, like Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, UK, Africa, Asia, North and South America. It's literally global. Australia, New Zealand, the story is on repeat. And too many people are believing that there's no cure. Too many people are believing there's no hope. And I think that's what Dana and I are passionate about changing, and that's why we're here today. I'm just curious, Dana, if you wouldn't mind perhaps sharing some of the home practices, home exercises, or the workbook stuff that you explored, how
Yeah.
that supported you, or just giving us some examples of the homework you gave yourself.
Right. So every day I was doing my homework, and that was, reading your book, listening to your podcasts. Um, the thing that I struggled with always, I'm very type A and go, 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 go. I had my stuff together. Like I was really, really busy, and life was going perfect. I had
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 jobs. I went back to school many times. So I was always in control. I never had any mental health issues, nothing like that. And no one was forcing me to do those things. That was just me. Go, 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 go. And then, this happened 9 months ago, and I read the book, and a couple of things that that you talked about. You are expert in you. Give yourself the time, space, structure, and permission to heal. This was so significant to me. If your body could speak, if your body could speak, what do you think it might say to you? And to me, that was life changing, because looking back, before the vertigo, little signs were creeping in that I ignored. I had tinnitus. Didn't really, learned about it in nursing school. Like, what's this heartbeat? Why do I have a heartbeat in my ear all of a sudden? Right. So looking back now, I can say fully that my body was giving me little signals. Dana, slow down. Like, you can't do this anymore. You need to slow down. And then you have society and your parents or friends going, well, you got to keep going. You can't retire. You're only 54, you're only 53 years old. You got to keep going. You got to keep going. I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. But no, the answer to that is no. I know what's best for me. And you need to listen to your body. That's like, if that's my one little gem that I got out of it, it was that. And I will tell you, stress is crazy for this illness. My father ended up in the hospital with quadruple bypass surgery, and when he was sick, I got sick, 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 sick as well. And so you have to decrease the stress in your life, and you have to slow down, and you have to listen to your body. And that is the biggest thing that I took away from the book, and from all my little exercises and all my little notes that I have. And I kept writing, slow down, slow down, slow down. And that's fine to know it, and realize it, which is ginormous. But then doing something about it,
Yeah.
right? How do you do something about it? Do you quit work? Do you get rid of people in your life that are toxic? And so I have changed my total life around. And I am starting to feel better, because I'm listening.
Can I ask a couple of personal questions, and feel
Yeah,
free
for
feel
sure.
free not to answer, but my two
Yeah, no,
questions
no.
that I'm like, oh, I would love to hear
Yeah,
is number one, so for triple PD, it's persistent postural perceptual dizziness, which means these are moments when it's like we feel like we're constantly drunk or hungover, or like an astronaut, there's some kind of weird movement which can be described in infinite ways that's in the
yeah,
body, in the head, and from all accounts we look normal, the test results are essentially normal, but we don't feel normal. So it's this inner uncertainty and instability, unsteadiness. It's awkward. It's typically accompanied by loss of confidence, isolation, withdrawal from social activities, things like this, because we just don't feel right. That's the classic not quite right. So coming from that place, what were your desired sensations? What were your neural pathways you were actively working at home, your homework, to build? Are you happy to share some of those?
Yeah, so I, and you say in your book, don't focus on the negative things. And I think your first reaction is to say, well, I want to feel normal, right? Like I want to feel normal, which means you want to feel the way you did before, the onset of this. But I wanted, I wanted to have hope, and I wanted to have power over this. And you teach us, to have gratitude, which in the beginning is almost impossible because you're like, how can I be grateful for this? It's ruined my life, right? So learning those things and taking a step back, um was really huge. I mean, I'm dizzy 24/7. Like people say, oh, when you have flare-ups, I'm like, people have flare-ups? Like I'm like this all the time. So I wanted that to go away, and I'm still working on that. But I will say my tinnitus, I have 99% gotten rid of that. And when it does come, I can get rid of it. So that was all your positive thinking, and don't pay a lot of attention to it, which is so difficult because it kind of runs your life, right? So so
I want to
get
I want to bring you back to the question, because actually the goal is not to get rid of anything,
right,
even though that can be the outcome. And it's wonderful like for me that's the outcome for sure, and for you that sounds like that's the outcome, and that's it's a great place to arrive to, but it's important that's not the goal. The goal is to build the neural pathways we want to feel. So what I'm hearing from you, correct me if I'm wrong,
yeah,
is you desire to feel steadiness. You
yes,
desire to feel a sense of control and power over your life and over your inner world. And you're
yes,
navigating how to build those pathways. So it's not about accepting symptoms. It's not about focusing on getting rid of symptoms. It's actually about acknowledging those sensory pathways are there. They're giving me messages, and they're certainly giving me a wake up call and a reality slap. But what am I
right,
going to do with them? I'm going to focus on actively finding where I locate inner peace and stability, steadiness in my body. And that's the journey of exploration. Is it in my feet? Is it in my hips? Is it in my heart? And the more we focus on that desired sensation that we're cultivating and building and strengthening through repetition, and this is the Rocksteady process,
right.
um, that's when the brain changes, when it stops becoming about getting rid of X, Y, Z, and it starts becoming building A, B, C,
Right,
right?
right,
And then
right,
I think what we're talking about here is really big in chapter 2. And I specific like as you've mentioned already, I specifically say it's no use saying we want to feel normal, because what does normal mean? And
right,
reality is if you look at the normal curve in the general population, a lot of people are depressed and anxious and not doing so great. So we don't necessarily want to aim for normal. What we want to do is be specific about how we want to feel. And really common feeling words are, I want to feel relaxed in my body. I want to feel calm in my body. I want to feel at ease in my body. I want to feel strong, stable, courageous, resourceful,
right,
powerful, confident. And different people will target different neural sensory networks. So a lot of my male clients will go for, I want to feel resourceful and courageous. And they focus on building that. And a lot of my female clients will say, well, actually, I just want to feel calm. Like I feel so on
yeah,
edge, I've forgotten what calm is. So that will become their primary focus. And it doesn't matter what it is. And with time and with like me right now, I'm constantly changing what neural pathways I'm focusing on and building, because I'm growing with my life, with my inner selves. And also the idea of stability and inner peace is kind of easy for me now. It's automated. Those pathways are strong. So now I
right,
can focus on feeling, for me, like perhaps a deeper sense of contentment, joy, blessings, bliss, higher states that I previously would have poo-pooed and been like, whatever, that's a hippie word. Now I'm
Right.
open to them, right? So
Right.
coming back to desired sensations is very personal. It does change, but it's just, I think it's a really key conversation. And again, go visit chapter 2 and the homework there in chapter 2, because that's what it's getting you to really detail.
Right.
Now, my
Right.
other question for you is, would you be willing to share any of the little practical home exercises, whether it be taking the challenge of the no big deal approach, whether it be taking the challenge of self-kindness for a week and changing how you talk to yourself, whether it be a standing body scan, sitting body scan, lying body scan, or did you invent any? Were there any little home exercises that you found really poignant that you'd be willing to share with the listeners, just so they can get an idea of what a neuroplasticity practice is?
Yeah, I think the that whole self-kindness and positive talking and finding those things that you do that bring you that awe that you talk about. And for me, it is calm. I want to feel calm because I've never felt my neurological system so like
Yeah.
I mean I'll be lying in bed at night and I'll like right, like it's like I'm jumping out of a plane, and it's like we all get those little twitches or whatever, but like this is like a full body, right? Like so there is something going on there that's not happy, right? So I have a beach not far from here, so calm is what I hope for. So I go down to the beach and I sit at the beach because that's my happy place, and just all the positivity and watching the waves and watching the ducks and listening to the waves come in.
Yeah.
All those, putting yourself in a position that you're loving what you're doing. When you speak of the violin, and for me it's the beach. So every day I walk, which is crazy hard to do, right? Because you're so not quite right all the time. Anyways, I am. So I do that. I make a point to do that. I do the body scans. I like the standing up one.
Hmm.
You say, everybody sways, right? And I got my mom to do it. I'm like, here, do this or do that. And I'm like, oh, well, she's doing it and she's normal, right? So I do that. At night when I go to bed, I do another body scan, and I've been doing like meditation to try to sleeping is difficult. So I've been doing tapping. I've been doing tapping and stuff, and you speak of that as well. And that's really been helpful as well. But I think the biggest part is just giving myself um, the time and just being really really nice to me. You make a comment about something about treat yourself like you would your best friend, and that was pretty wow. That's so true, and I am doing that probably for the first time in my life. That yeah, you know what, this is about me, and I don't care what the rest of you think that I should be doing. This is about me, and this is my time, and this is my space, and I know if I don't do it, like I'm going to have a heart attack or stroke. Like I know this, this dizziness, this tetanus or tinnitus is a warning sign for something bigger to come, because your body can only do so much. And you're teaching me to step back and just be really nice to me, because if a girlfriend of mine was telling me the way I'm feeling, I would say, slow down, take that day off, call in sick, use up all your vacation, go to the spa, go to the beach. Well, why don't we do that to ourselves? We don't, right?
Well, this is the Rocksteady path, and a lot of this is further elaborated from a practical implementation point of view in the Rocksteady program. So, module each of the 6 modules online gives very concrete examples of how to implement this. And in module 4, we look at self-regulating emotions and being in the sympathetic nervous system versus the parasympathetic nervous system, and how we can manipulate that and participate, keeping us coming back to calm all the time. And module 5 looks at having a plan. So how can I be that voice? How can I be that best friend? And how can I have a structure in place so if I'm having a really great day, I'm not debilitated by the what ifs. I'm actually just at the beach having fun. And if I'm
Right.
having a middle of the road day, how can I calm it back down so I feel normal again, instead of blowing it out, ignoring it? And then if I'm having an atrociously difficult day for whatever reason, how can I call in all of my resources? How can I get people dropping off meals? How can I call the boss or get babysitters? So
Right.
being really strategic means that we're always resourced. We have nothing to be afraid of, because we know that every single day I've got it covered. And we
Right.
learn to become that best friend. The other thing I wanted to make a comment on, and this is kind of almost shifting into, a kind of private therapy conversation, but I feel like it's really, really useful for all of us to be reminded that, we can live our lives looking through what could be called like the fear lens or the symptom lens. And so it can be everything's hard, everything's symptomatic. I'm always 24/7 dizzy. I'm always this, I'm always that. Life is hard, da 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 da. And everything we experience is coming through that lens with that flavor, right? Nothing wrong with that, but it's good to explore and experiment with life through that filter. And honestly sit down and reflect on, how did that feel for me? Did it work? Do I finish the day feeling full, feeling revived, feeling refreshed? Or am I drained and exhausted and a bit bitter, right? Then the other lens, which I think gets neglected and not spoken about very much, is the sensory lens, the willingness to feel lens, the acceptance lens. There's no judgment here. So there is no positive and negative. We're not letting in positive things and blocking out negatives. We're actually just allowing ourselves to feel whatever we feel with this self-kindness approach. And there's this relaxed kind of openness through the sensory lens to allow the sounds of the ocean in, to allow the sense of the touch, maybe of the sand on our feet,
Yeah.
to, to allow ourselves to perhaps put our hands on our hips and really just feel our center. We're letting the sensory world literally touch us. We're feeling it, and we're not judging it as a good day or a bad day, a good sensation or a bad sensation. So that we remove the judgment, and I think we really allow that feeling process in, even if the feelings are uncomfortable or awkward or not quite right. We're still allowing them in with that really friendly, supportive holding, which keeps the brain in the parasympathetic rest, repair, relax system. So there's no flight, fight, freeze, or judgment activated. And so I think playing with these different lenses of perspective, again, there's no right or wrong. We can live here or we can live there. We can jump between the two. But knowing we can jump between the two gives us our power back. Because instead of everything being difficult and hard, it becomes interesting. It becomes unique. It becomes curious. It becomes, oh, how can I play with this? So, I've had many, many triple PD clients who are fully recovered now, and it's come through shifting into that sensory lens and knowing that if they're unstable or unsteady, they can activate steadiness and find it because they know how to use their sensory body. And it could be very simple strategies like putting their hands in their pockets and walking on the beach, and having that sensory contact with their core and their center means it's almost like they've got the steering wheel and they're back in control, and that proprioceptive system is taking over. Instead of being up here where all the dizziness is living, this is all the neural dizziness structures are up here. They drop down into the hips, the thighs, the knees, the calves, the feet, and they actually activate the steadiness pathways that override, and then that's what becomes front and center. And then of course they feel like a new person. So learning to play with our neural pathways and our language. It's such a journey, and it's simple. Anyone can do it. But I think it takes that kind of trial and error approach.
Right.
Um, do you relate with any of that at all, Dana?
Yeah, and it's living today and living now in this very moment. It's so hard not to look in the past and say, well, when I was, pre this, this is how I felt, or geez, what's the future going to be like, right? So that's, I think, hard for a lot of people, and it's a big struggle for me to live right now, today. Let's not worry about then. Like, let's just do today, and then tomorrow we'll do tomorrow, right? So that the whole gratitude piece. And when you say, all these feelings we have are, everybody has these feelings. It's just some of us, they've exploded. And it's very sad, but I went to visit a friend of mine who just recently had a stroke.
Mm,
And I thought, I'm complaining about these feelings that I have, but he would kill to have those feelings. And it kind of like, wow, you're right. Even though there might not be our favorite feelings, they're feelings. And some people don't even have that.
yeah,
So that gratitude is, that's a big one. That's a
yeah,
big one. But that situation kind of brought all that home to me, that,
yeah,
I'm grateful that I feel anything.
yeah. And this is where your process of going from the judgment, which is how we're brought up in society.
Yeah,
Like nobody grows up without being swimming in an ocean of judgment, because we're told from birth things are right and wrong, good, bad, etc.
right.
And shifting into this place of really seeing the miracle of life and accepting life as it comes to us and passes through us, with a willingness to feel, it really does shift away from the judgment. It becomes a non-judgmental experience. It's like standing under the shower and just letting ourselves feel the water, instead of judging the water as cold, hot, right, wrong, good, bad.
Right.
um, and just literally letting life wash over us and through us. And that comes through having safety in the body, which is where it all comes back to those body scans, which are a fundamental implementable practice. And they teach us the skill of observation and non-judgment, right? Because if we body scan with judgment and say, well, I shouldn't feel this, and I don't like this, and it's not my preference, and it's not my favorite, we're not actually using neuroplasticity. We're just having a go at ourselves, right? We're just being like the outer world around us. And what we're doing is we're learning how to create a new inner world that's safe, friendly, supported, gentle, compassionate, calm. And that creates that. In order to do that, we need to create the ability to feel in our body, in our sensory body. And that's all five senses. And it's a journey. It took me, honestly, well over 10 years to create safety in my body. And a lot of that was because I had no education and no one guiding me.
Right.
Quite the opposite. I had very rigid, strict, judgmental yoga teachers like bullying me. So I had, it was almost like I had the odds stacked up against me. And I had to learn how to self-preserve.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of my compassion came from me because I wasn't getting it in the outer world.
Yeah.
So in writing the Rocksteady book, in building the Rocksteady program and the 7 days of support program and my new overcoming trauma program, my intention is that this healing can be quick and easy. It doesn't need to take a long time. We're all different, but honestly, once the education and understanding, the resources and the role modeling is there, it can be really easy. And I think a lot of people kind of have this if I was to summarize it, it's almost like they go from A to Z in the alphabet, and the journey is like this hard slog of A, B, C, D, building up skills, building up learning. And by the time you get to X, Y, Z, it's just like, oh, it's so easy. So
Right.
we have this like kind of learning period, and then suddenly everything just clicks and falls into place, and we're like, oh, why haven't I been doing that my whole life? And the answer to that question is because we weren't ready, and we probably didn't have the safety, support, and resources. So it takes as long as it takes. And I don't believe we can force healing, but we can be open to it, and we can use the support resources in the community that we need to nurture that A, B, C, D, E, and so on. So it sounds
But
like you're, yeah,
it's hard to I mean, so many of us, are seeking, our doctors, our ENT, our neuro people to do this. And why? Because that's always the way it is. You have an appendix attack, you go get your appendix out. Like, they fix you. You have that rough time of healing or whatever, but eventually they fix you, right? I mean, you should probably keep your appendix or whatever, you're born with it. But the nice part about the book and stuff is that give us you give us the knowledge that, what, we have the power, that we're the empowered ones. And once, yes, you don't have a brain tumor or MS or whatever, you are the only one who has the power. And I would say a small portion of people ever get to that, so you say, well, it's easy, but it's easy for a small portion of people, because most people don't get to that, I think.
they will.
Because
I think it's changing, and I believe uh, on the planet the consciousness is changing, and I think when we look at the whole person and their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, and their interconnectedness with the ecologies of the planet, the medical world take up the tiniest little slither of knowledge and expertise. And we're starting to realize, oh, I put all my faith in the medical system. What was I thinking? That's
right,
not fair on the doctor. The doctor doesn't understand my spiritual history. The doctor doesn't understand my emotional inner life. And that, just those two alone, the emotional inner world and the spiritual inner world, are neurologically embedded in my body and contributing to how my brain and body are pulsing neural patterns. The doctor cannot contribute to that, and it's not their training and it's not their job. So I think you're quite right. Previously, it was very much like, the doctor is God, the doctor knows best, the doctor
right,
can and will fix me. And if it's a linear issue and problem, like a splinter, and you just pull it out, that is
right,
a miracle, right? But we're not talking about linear conditions. We're talking about wholehearted, whole human, complicated, chronic conditions that have physical components, but also have deeply ignored and overlooked mental, emotional, spiritual components to healing. And while I think you're right, not many people are learning about this and getting the education, it's changing.
I
My,
hope so.
my, my book's only been out for a few months, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people are reading it and healing. And I'm getting messages all the time. I can sleep now. I had insomnia. I'm sleeping now. This has
Yeah.
changed my life. And so I think again, it's just about understanding. And a lot of people say to me, you just popped up on my computer on YouTube. And it's like, in that moment, they were ready for this conversation. Previous to that, with 3 years of online researching, they never found Rocksteady. So it's like one day it just came up, and it's like there's this sense of serendipity and timing. And I feel so many medical doctors are really supportive of this process. They get it. They understand they're limited. They understand the complexity of a human being, and they feel powerless, that they can't go in and fix your mental, emotional, spiritual world, but they can't. And so that it's changing. I think the conversation's changing. I think the expectations are changing. And I think the rigid, judgmental, diagnostic, right, wrong, abnormal, normal conversation is changing. Because the reality is you're not triple PD. you're Dana.
Right.
And understanding Dana and her neural networks that she wants to build, that's your ticket home. Not getting rid of triple PD, right? It's a
Right.
totally different approach to healing.
Well, we've got great resources now, and like I said, I just totally came upon your book through one of these other Facebook pages, and whenever somebody says, "Oh, I'm at my wit's end," I'm like, "You should read Rocksteady." You
Yeah.
should read Rocksteady. And seriously, Joey, like you're helping so many people, and it's so wonderful, and you have such a nice way about you, and you said something about your accent. You felt like, oh, you didn't know if you wanted to do these kind of things because your accent. You're lovely to listen to. You really, no, you really are. You have a very nice voice and a very nice way about you, and I think people, like I said before, feel like you really do care about them, and that's very nice, because I mean, I'm from Canada and everybody's supposed to be so lovely up here, but nobody is, even said, "Hey, have you heard about neuroplasticity?" Like, you know what I mean? They could have at least put that out there, like, "Why don't you read about neuroplasticity? That might help you," instead of just saying, "Oh yeah." Mm,
I think the truth is I firmly believe everyone's doing their best. And if they could have told you that, they would have. And I really hope more and more medical and health professionals get a hold
yeah,
of my book. I hope they take at least a read of the chapter summaries and refer people to it, because people don't need to be stuck. There is a way to heal, but we need the education to do it. And it's no shame on anybody. It's like you can't play the piano until you get a piano and a teacher and you start practicing. It's
right,
exactly the same with changing our sensory world. And if we want to redesign our inner world and feel normal again, we don't focus on getting rid of symptoms. We focus on rebuilding whatever the heck normal means to me. So it's this
right.
whole self-study inner process. It's very accessible. And yes, I have lots of pay what you can scholarships for people, particularly in third world countries where there is just no way they can afford uh, with currency exchanges and things like that. So it's super accessible. The book's available. There's a bunch of free resources online. There's my 7-day support program, overcoming trauma program, and then the full comprehensive Rocksteady program, which is very thorough and supportive for that ongoing work for people who want it and need it. So I hope that everybody listening to this who feels a bit stuck or isolated, helpless, hopeless, powerless, at their wits' end, all I can say is trust your body and know that when you're ready, this neuroplasticity process will probably start to make sense for you, and the readiness and motivation will come, because finance isn't a barrier. And if we want the support is there. That's why we have those scholarships to help people.
And there's
Regard-
so much stuff on YouTube. I mean, you have so much stuff on YouTube that, I mean, when I go to bed at night, that's what I listen to you talking to all these other people who are similar to myself,
It's
and
great.
it's super helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're
Yeah.
not alone. And I think that's a really big part of healing. And actually, that's been the game changer for the Rocksteady program, is we have group calls and people get together and they ask their questions and they listen to the therapy Q&A. And a lot of people will say to me, "Oh my God, it was so good when Miranda asked that question, because I didn't know how to articulate it. And when she asked it, I was like, oh my God, that's the question I could be asking." And so it's really helpful to have that sense of community and peer support. And yeah, there's like, gosh, probably almost 100 hours worth of those calls of Q&A and that therapy style problem solving, uh, which again just provides that sense of belonging and I'm not alone. And also
Yeah.
that sense of feeling the connected compassion, not just for ourselves but for other people too. And I think compassion is easier to feel for other people than it is for ourselves. So it's almost like by holding other people and their pain and their suffering and their journey and their insights and their healing and celebrating them, it teaches us how to hold our own pain and suffering and how to celebrate our own insights and healing, which often is harder. It's really curious, but that's the way we're wired.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope. So I want to just say I'm Joey Remenyi from seekingbalance.com.au. Jump on my website if you want to learn more about me and my offerings. And Dana from Canada, thank you so much for your
Thank
time. Do you have any passing closing words? Not advice for people, but just any closing words that you feel you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy I found your book because it really was a game changer. And you know, the point that really has stuck with me and has changed my life is to really listen to your body. And you say your body never lies. You say something about your brain kind of does sometimes, or plays tricks on you, but your body never lies. And that was really
Yeah,
ah
yeah,
that was a huge aha moment. And um, I hate to say this, but I think especially as women, we're just programmed now to do all this stuff. You have to work, and you have to clean, and you have to cook, and you have to be a husband, or you have to be a wife and a mother, and you have to do all this stuff. But if you listen to your body, it doesn't lie.
yeah.
And
So
that's
I can completely relate to that. And we were just saying actually before we clicked record, I feel like my body's calling me home again to question, all right, Joey, how much are you giving? How much are you giving to your family, to your growing baby, to your toddler, to your husband, to your community of thousands of people? And how much are you nourishing it and receiving in? And is that balanced? Like, really? Is it balanced?
yeah.
Are you on top of this? And so there's these little reminders all the time. And I speak about it in the trauma conversation. It's not like we go and do therapy and we're healed for good. That's it, job done. This is a daily check-in, and it's a daily responsiveness with gentleness and kindness to whatever's arising, because it's not about eliminating or deleting or having pure certainty. I think the only certainty we can have as humans is change, and to feel resourced and prepared for that change, that's the game changer. I can handle whatever comes because I have the resources to fall back on to hold myself through that,
Yeah.
and I've got the plan. And so that to me is the definition of Rocksteady. And I think that actually comes through in the book, talking about the tennis player getting ready to return the ball.
Yeah.
You know, it's that
Yeah.
responsiveness to what's coming at us, and the gentleness and kindness for when we drop the ball, and it's okay, just try again.
And that it's okay to be a little bit greedy. Like, this is what I need. I give you and you and you this all the time, but now it's my time, and I need to take this time, and I'm going to do what I need to do. And if you can help me, that'd be great. But if not, that's okay too. I'm going to do it because this is what I need to do, and that's what my body's telling me to do.
Yeah,
So that's my biggest, like, aha moment that has and will change my life. And
yeah,
I've started already making major changes in my life.
beautiful.
Because
And that's the self permission. I understand the term greedy, but it's not greedy. It's necessary. It's actually essential because the planet needs you, and
yeah,
the planet needs you to be grounded and whole and
yeah,
sovereign. And until you're in your power, your sovereignty, and you have energy to overflow to the world, you're not in service to the world, right? It's actually not greed, it's necessity.
yeah,
Just like our car needs petrol, like it's not greedy, it just needs
yeah,
petrol. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's a straightforward exchange. And it's interesting how, particularly as women, and it's interesting you're in the teaching and nursing fields where compassion, burnout, and overgiving are really common.
yep,
So learning how to fill up and to
yeah,
honor and acknowledge that that fuel coming into your vehicle is a necessity. That's not greedy.
yeah.
That's yeah, that's just fully shifting your relationship to how you interact with the world, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier, really. I mean, I know I have a long journey, but I know I'm doing the things I need to do for me.
Mm, mm.
And I'll tell you, they're not really popular. My my decision making is not popular around my friends and family, and I don't
It's
really care.
No,
You
it
know?
happens. It happens. Look, it's been such a pleasure to meet you. I hope I get to see the beaches of Canada one day.
Yes, come visit, please,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, and
And
that's really beautiful that you get that sensory enrichment when you visit the beach.
yes.
So I celebrate you in that decision, as you let yourself hear and feel and be touched and moved.
Yeah, love the
Um,
walk.
and I suppose my wish for you is that your inner peace and steadiness comes with you wherever it's
Thank
living in your body. It's probably not here. It's probably
right,
somewhere down there, but that
right.
you have access to your inner peace and steadiness. I think that would be
Thank
game changing for you.
thank you. Thanks for everything you do, Joey. It's really
It's a
it's
pleasure.
changed many people's lives, so thank you.
It's a pleasure. So visit seekingbalance.com.au if you want to check out more, and I'll put a link below to some of my programs and the book. So bye
Okay.
for now.
Bye. Thanks, Joey.